In this video, I'll go over one of my most effective ways to catch trout in heavy cover. These are areas that most people skip. I go over my equipment selection and different techniques and how to get those fish.
All right, so before I get to fishing, I'm gonna go over how I set my BFS reels up for this short range casting. This is the 2022 Shimano Aldebaran BFS. So this braking profile is a little bit faster than most other Shimano BFS reels that I've used. So I do have the brakes up a little bit higher, but I'll turn them down to about 3.5 to start off with. And always my spool tension knob is barely any side to side play. And the lure I'm using today, it's a smaller lure just because there is a lot of areas that could snag up, and also this trout a little bit smaller. So this is the Rapala CD1. It's a very small, solid balsa lure. I have a single barbless hook on there. That's going to help with the fish, not getting tore up as much, but also it's going to help come through a lot of this wood. Most of my snaggy areas, they're not going to be rocks. It's a lot of sand, spring-fed stream. Some of it's from runoff as well. A lot of it's wood, and wood gets caught up pretty easy with treble hooks. So that single barbless hook, most times it rides right out of there. And the line I'm using, it's a very visible line. It's made by Verivis. It's Super Trout Advanced Sight Edition. I'm using a 4-pound line. It's just kind of a good all-around line strength for me. But that high-vis line is going to be very, very crucial to this short-range casting. Although the water is very clear, I haven't had any issues with brook trout shying away, because a lot of it's a reaction strike, because that water is so shallow. You're coming through, you're hitting the bottom, deflecting. A lot of times those brook trout are going to come out and hit it. But the bright line, what that's going to do is, a lot of times when you're tracking your lure when you cast, you're not actually seeing your lure at first. It's kind of just muscle memory, but also like the momentum of your cast. Your eyes have more time to be able to track your lure, like find your lure and track it going through the air. With the short range casting that I'm going to be doing, being able to see your lure and line right away is very crucial, especially with how much different contrasting background and foreground that there's going to be. It's very hard to track your lure. So I highly recommend using a visible line. All right, so kind of just stepping out into the stream, these are going to be areas that it's going to be hard to load up your rod and get a good cast in there, especially there's a lot of cover, but also by the time you load your rod up and get your cast going, it's going to be way too hard of a landing for your lure, because you have to thumb your spool down real quick. So a lot of these areas I'm going to pitch, and a lot of times it looks like all through here I'm just going to be pitching this whole time. So this is something I used to do a lot of bass fishing. Oh, there's a nice one that just came out. I'm going to loosen my brakes up a little bit. I'm going to put it to like 3.5. I used to do a lot of bass fishing, so a lot of these techniques that you get from bass fishing and such translate pretty well over to stream fishing. And all these weird angles, like right here, normally I'd be closer to the water, but I have to raise my arm up a little bit more. But this is, having your brakes loose is actually going to give you more control, because if your brakes are a little bit too high, your lure hangs up in the air a little bit, and it's going to be really hard to control the presentation of your lure. Oh, we got him. Oh, got off. See, that was persistently going to the same spot. Now, in streams like this, there's not very many places for them to hide. They're going to be tucked underneath logs like this, or the banks are going to be your #1 spot. And this is possible with a spinning reel. It's just a little bit more difficult because of, having your finger with the bail and then closing your bail and reeling. It makes it a lot more difficult, versus all I have to do is I can put my thumb on the spool and my lure stops. I can control the presentation a lot better. You get way back there. And sometimes you're just at the mercy of however the current is. Yeah, this angle is a lot better for me to get back there. Yeah, way back there. Oh, there's one that came out. This is what is one? He darted out. Yeah, it's definitely a welcome. It's definitely a welcome section of the creek. Although this is still. There we go. Oh, that's a pretty looking one. Stay up, stay up, stay up. There we go. Oh, come on. Ah. There we go. That's a pretty looking fish. He's young enough, he still has its, let me wet my hand real quick. Still has its juvenile marks. But it's big enough still. That looks pretty nice. Let him go. All right, so another key thing is it's all relative. So when you're looking for holes or pockets or anything, you know, if you're in a big river, those differences might be, you know, a foot, 2 feet, you know, or a big boulder that has like some sweeping underneath it. Here, I mean, it could just be a matter of a few inches making a difference, or the bottom composition. So really, a lot of these logs are going to divert water all over the place. So really, wherever you get like where two different currents come together, those are going to be key spots. Because that's like double the opportunity for these bugs to be flying, you know, floating down the river to these trout. So there's a little log that's down here. It creates a little bit of a pocket. Oh, right there, I just had one come out instantly. I'm just staying back and just pitching. Oh, wait, that's not good. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna purposely edit out when I get caught up in bushes, you know, unless it's a big backlash or something. But that's just part of it. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here, I'm not gonna edit a video to make it look like, oh, I never make mistakes. But part of that you can actually use to your advantage. I do that a lot of times when I'm fishing a frog for like bass fishing, is if I cast a little bit too far into the brush or grass, I'll just barely pull that thing out of there, and it looks very natural hitting the water, more natural than just splashing down from a big cast. The current's coming back toward me. This is the preferred way that you want to fish shallow water. So what I do, I use my rod tip, and then another reason why a little bit longer rod is beneficial. So when I pitch, in order to pick up before I even turn my handle, I'm already picking up my rod tip. And what that's doing, I'm able to control my slack line and get action on my lure right away, so it's not tumbling in the current. So I'm able to go like this. I can control where my lure's at. Like right there, I can pop it up from right there. Oh, I think there's one that just came out right there. A little bit further back, keep it up. Because if you don't do that, if you're just using a normal casting, you know, say I pitch and I go like this, that lure's tumbling right away, and your line is not going to be direct. So if a fish, because a lot of times they're going to hit quick and move. So if your line's not tight, you can get caught up on sticks, rocks, or whatever. But also, if that fish swipes, you're not going to be able to get that slack line out fast enough to be able to set the hook on that fish. So controlling your line is more important, I think, than controlling your lure a lot of times. Right there, come just over that log. I know the guy, oh, yep, one just swiped. Second one came out. Right underneath where these flowers are, it's like a little tiny cave right there. Hopefully it's like a rough and rowdy brook trout bar that they're just looking to fight right now. Or Misfit Island from Pinocchio. Turned to a big old donkey brook trout. It's like one of my favorite ways to use these micro crankbaits is I can come right across the front of that. Again, yeah, right across the front of that log. Just pitch it out there. That's why it's nice to have that longer rod. I can work the angles of my lure a lot better. I don't want to step there, but maybe I come up over this. Oh, that's shaky. Oh, my death would be on video if I die. Ooh.